talk about, which is normals and their uses. So, Jam's got a whole bunch of good normals, and they all have different uses. We tend to recommend some more than others in the Jam Discord when people have specific problems. So I'm just going to start going through each of them that I feel like is worth mentioning, and well, maybe I'll just go through all the normals. So 5P, the thing that's notable about 5P is that it's 3 frames. I think this and Chip's 5P are the only 3-frame normals in the game, so it's very, very good at mashing out of things. Unfortunately, standing, crouching. Well, I should say unfortunately, in a way, it'll whiff on crouchers. I don't remember if it hits on pot crouching, but I think even he's like low enough to avoid it. This is a good and a bad thing. The bad thing about it is that if somebody's doing, like a block string to you and they're doing lows, usually 5P will whiff, so you can't really use it to mash out in that situation. If they're in the air, it's pretty good for mashing out if they're like right above you. But the thing that is kind of cool about it is the fact actually that it whiffs means you can do stuff like I don't know if you saw that. You can do 5P whiff now. Well, I mean, you could do it in Rev 1 before, but this is a good, I think, tick throw setup, because most people, when you do meaty 5K Oki on them enough, they're like waiting to block it. They're like, they know it's gonna be this is gonna be Hiroki tool. I'm gonna wait until I can punish something like slide or 2D or whatever. And this is fairly hard to react to as well. Chip, I think, does a similar thing with something into 5P whiff throw. And if they're standing, it'll like 5P hit and you can delay it long enough to get the grab. But that's underrated setup. So you can also do 5P whiff 5K when they like, if you just abuse this enough that they're like, okay, he's gonna 5K and then throw me. And there's a little gap there, so they can get caught mashing by, I think they can get caught mashing by the second 5K. And then you just keep block stringing them to death. But yeah, 5P is good for mashing against some air approaches, not all. Like, don't mash 5P all the time or you'll get counter hit by Soul JD into 1 billion damage or something like that, and I take no responsibility for that. I'm gonna make her not crouch anymore. So that's 5P. 2P is very quick as well. I think it's 4 frames. I tend to use it just when mashing out of pressure, and for that it's not bad. I mean, it's got stuff that Gatlings out of it, like you can do 5P or 2P 5K, 2P close S, 2P whatever else. So it's a good mash tool. It's good for picking up combos at the end of like max regen or something. I guess in that case she's not high enough, so I have to do something like, I don't know. Oh, that whiffs. Perfect. And you could do like a, I guess maybe not. Maybe not in that specific situation, because she's still kind of too low, but in any place where there's like a max regen and you're like, how do I pick this up? Chances are you can pick it up with 5K or 2P for that reason. That just as a side note, I think most of the time you're going to use 2P as like a good mash tool. 6P, pretty good anti-air. If you want someone to tell you how good 6P is, talk to Doran. He's all about 6P. And he really likes that button. It actually got buffed in Rev 2. I think it was the upper body invul got like it starts up faster, it's like lower or something like that. So 6P got a good buff. It's very useful, and not only that, but as I was saying before, Stuff Gatlings out of 6p, so you can sometimes use it in block strings and stuff like that too. But like primarily, it's just a fairly good anti-air. There are still some things that'll either clash with it or beat it outright or trade with it, like long-reaching normals, like air normals from other characters like Johnny, who has JH. I think will either stuff it or, depending on like the height and the way it interacts. 6p is good, but it's not like, it won't beat everything. It's not the best 6p, but it's definitely worth using. So that's 5p, 2p, 6p. I guess to start in the case, 5k. 5k is +1 on regular block, and it's a standing low, and it's 4 frames. 5k is a god button. 5k is super good, but unfortunately the range of it is like not amazing. It's not bad at all, but for a button that's that fast and it's +1 and it gatlings into a bunch of other stuff, it's understandable that this is the range of it. Still, with some moves that kind of like push their hurt boxes forward, you can actually poke out with 5k at ranges that you wouldn't expect. But 5k is a good meaty as well. Like, how do I get it to block there? F for sit. Because the way the Gatlings work with Jam, yeah, that works. You have lots of like things you can do out of 5k, and that's basic pressure like this, or you know, can you do something like other stuff. You have a lot of like 5k's. It's a good meaty. It's +1, and you have a lot of options out of it where you can switch up your block strings and use different things to try to open your opponent up. So I think it's a very solid meaty, especially for somebody starting out. But even still, for somebody you know, who's been playing Jam forever long, I think everybody uses 5k because 5k is super good. 6k, it's kind of a point of debate. With Rev 2, they took out the block string that we used to have, which was 6k into 5h, which doesn't work anymore. As Sway calls it, the Jam Dance. It was absolutely godlike. It was like basically an infinite block string, and while I'm not happy they took it away, I completely understand why. Instead, we have 6k close S into whatever, I guess, but 6k has some uses. They are sort of limited, but there's like situations where you will use it. Do like 6k jump cancel stuff. This is an Amadeus original. 6k jump cancel J2k. I don't think I ever do this. But yeah, that's the thing about 6k that 5k doesn't have is, if you notice the delay, 5k isn't jump cancelable. 6k is though. So if you want to do like jump shenanigans and stuff, you can even do like 5k, 6k into jump cancel, whatever. The other notable things about 6k, I think, are that it's 2 hits. It's got like pretty long active compared to the rest of Jam's moves. So what I tend to do is use it as a backdash catch. I wonder if I can get her to... if I get it to mash backdash with backdash. Yeah, not bad. Okay. Oh, nice. I guess that does work. Okay. Maybe not on knockdown. I don't know if that showed it properly. I don't think it did, because normally when you catch their backdash with 6k, they're in the air. But suffice to say, 6k is a possible tool for catching backdash. I won't say whether it's good or bad because people tend to debate on it. The unfortunate thing is that, like, if they IB the first hit, they can throw you out of it. Especially if you're close enough. There is a gap between the 2 hits. people can like IBDP or IB throw or do whatever else. But this is the only normal that I'm really comfortable trying to catch pots backdash with. So I think 6K does have some uses, and like I said before, the fact that it's jump cancelable is kind of nice too, but the thing is, on whiff, 6K super not good. Because this recovery animation is super long, and you'll get counter hit. So whiffing 6K is really bad. The way that that usually comes into play is if you're doing like a counter hit puff combo and you mean to do like walk up 5K, you know, into 5K, 2H or whatever, or if you're trying to do it even as like a walk up Oki. A problem that I actually had for a very, very long time is that I would walk up and then because I'm doing like a forward dash, get 6K instead of 5K, and if it whiffs while you're just recovering right in their face, which is kind of awful. The way to solve that, as a side note, is instead of using just regular 5K or like dash forward 5K, you can use, if you press 4K, meaning back in K, it'll work as well, which it's a good thing to get in the habit of doing because that's also a good way to do a lot of burst safe stuff. But yeah, 6K is really bad on whiff, but it has a lot of things that make it worth using. 2K, it low profiles to some degree, but not anything like the edge of 2D or like 236SP or like slide or anything. You know, like slide YRC it's a good low profile. 2K will low profile some things, but not all of them. It does have a good range, and it's kind of good as a mash out tool. I think is it 4 frames or 5 frames startup? It's one of the two, I think. If I had more room on the screen, I'd just pull up all this frame data. But regardless, it's a good poke out normal. It's a good normal and neutral in some cases where you need to low profile things. The thing that I tend to use it the most for is because you can Gatling into 2K from 5K. And this is like standing low, low. It's good combo fodder, and it's good Gatling fodder as well, besides being a decent poke out tool and somewhat of a neutral tool, I guess. 5K 6H, 6K 6H, and 2K 6H are very good, like, basic pressure tools. I think there's actually a gap between the 2K and the 6H where they can try to mash and it'll counter hit in some cases depending on what they press. But in any case, 2K is good for combo fodder and for Gatling, its Gatling properties, and good as a poke out tool. Close S is jump cancel. It tends to be just more combo fodder in general, but a funny thing about it is it actually does have like a weird hitbox down here as well, like the elbow, kind of like her, the tip of her little like hair horn has a hitbox too, so you can anti-air in a lot of like really weird situations. Actually, I wish the wake up tool worked for this. I would like to have a tool that lets you simulate like wake up buttons, or tech buttons rather. With the way this range is though, and the hitbox of it, it can in some situations catch out people who are doing tech buttons or tech other things, especially like if they're tech not FDing or something. Close S has like limited utility as an anti-air and as an air normal, or not an air normal, but like ground to air normal. But it is worth noting to some degree at least that that's a thing that works. Otherwise, just combo fodder, you know, good for juggling. You use it a lot in PK confirms, you use it a lot in other confirms. And there's like more information. There's probably, I think, a Gatling chart in the FAQ of the Jam Discord with the stuff that does Gatling out of it, or the stuff that you can Gatling into Close S, and the stuff that you can Gatling out. What works? Close S far slash is a thing. That's one thing that you'll do like pretty often. You can do Close S 6P and vice versa. That's kind of like I think one of the trials actually is like And it's not the far slash, it's something else, but like close S and 6P Gatling into each other, and 6P Gatlings into far slash as well. So those three kind of can be used to make block strings to some degree. Another good one though is 2K, or 2S rather. And this I think more for block strings. This is a block string that I use fairly often. Close slash 2S 5K, because if they're regular blocking, just block everything, dummy. Uh, 5K will like often hit very like at the edge, so you can actually, if they're pressing a button, you can do far slash after that, and you'll get like counter hit far slash sometimes, or they're just blocking far slash and you can do IED pressure, or you can do puffball pressure, whatever else, or stuff like that. So close S is a good starter. It's good for use in like Gatling strings and stuff like that. It has limited utility as an anti-air, but it's worth noting that it can do that. Now, 2S it's a good normal, I think. It's good for poking out in very specific situations, and in neutral, it is actually kind of good at killing stuff. I wonder if you can kill... Actually, wait. Oh, it clashed. Yeah. Far-reaching... Whoa, too far-reaching. So if Millie's trying to 2D you, like, well, it wouldn't usually be at that range, but like... Yeah, see, like, the tip of... You can kill all but the tip almost of it. I think I tend to do this as well against Chip, where Chip has that like pressure. It's like Rekka 2D or something like that. If I know somebody's gonna throw a 2D like that, 2S staggers on counter hit. So there's usually not like a lot of really great stuff that you can do with that stagger unless you RC. It's worth noting though that like if you do get the counter into stagger, most people aren't going to be quick enough to mash out of stagger and press something that'll beat whatever you're going to do next. So even if... Let's set the thing to... Well, in most cases you'll get like a black beat combo, which is one thing. Most of my black beat combos start the same way as some of my block strings, so I can kind of just like confirm to see like, oh, he didn't mash out of stagger, I'll do, you know, this ender instead, get my card. But if you have somebody who's super fast, I think level 3 is, well, as quick as possible just for the sake of seeing. Whoa. It still gets hit by the first head or something? Oh, there's a way to set that. So, I guess 2S stagger is like really good even if you don't necessarily get the combo. Sometimes you'll get a combo and you can kind of confirm it and say like, oh well, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, get this confirmed. But even if they start blocking, it's just like, well, it's my turn still. So 2S has some uses, especially in neutral, but also as a out of far slash and close slash, 2S whiff works, especially when people, this is kind of another thing about pressure, but it's I guess worth mentioning right now, is like when people get used to this like far slash puffball pressure that we all do very often, this will mess them up in a way. Like you have people respecting your far slash puffball pressure, then you can start doing some of the other stuff like far slash whiff 2S run up 5K, far slash whiff 2S 6H, just whatever else, you know. That's kind of something about working on your pressure. So 2S whiff, I think, it's not only just a neutral tool and a combo tool and all this other stuff, but 2S on whiff is kind of a good tool to use as well. And like I had mentioned before about the PK stuff, it does juggle very low. It's a good normal to use on lightweights for PK combos. Yeah. Good for juggling lightweights, good for neutral, good for whiffing into extended pressure, good for all kinds of stuff. So that's a reason to use 2S. Just 1 second. Far slash. Yeah, so close. That was about close slash 2S. Yeah, 2 slash whiff kind of looks like melty and uniel reverse beats. It's kind of sick, but it's like the same concept. You can make yourself more safe by doing that. Actually, interesting thing to note about 2 slash whiff. Where's the thing to set it? Psych burst on the. Where is it? Auto psych burst on, say, like. Well, first we'll do it on hit number 1. You're still blocking. Okay. I wonder if this works. Does that not work? I guess it's like if you, that's most likely if they burst it as fast as possible. Like if they're mashing burst, this won't work. But a lot of people will tend to do like a delayed burst once they, you know how their burst kind of gets delayed when they see that they're getting hit, and oh, there it is, something like that. So I guess it doesn't work like when you're right in front of them, but that's worth noting as well. 2S whiff is good for a lot of things, including burst baiting, because it makes you recover faster. So you can do it like that, but you know, if they don't burst on the second hit, you just have whiff into more pressure. That's actually why you'll see me do this confirm a lot. Close slash 2S 5k or far slash 2S 5k. Either way, point is like Gatling into 2S and then 5k, because if the first normal hits, usually they'll delay burst and 2S will whiff and you block it, or if you're like far enough, if you're like at this range, you'll be able to block it. But even if they burst the 2S, 5k recovers fast enough that you can still block it. And then what else was the? And if they don't burst any of it, it's still confirm. There's lots of ways to like actually confirm it. I wonder if I can do it with that. You can either confirm it into a regular combo. What was that with? Yeah, something like that'll work. So that's kind of like a burst safe combo at the beginning, because you can usually recover fast enough to block a burst at 2S. So 2S whip is pretty solid as well. Talk about far S. Far slash is a very good neutral tool. In fact, it's like one of the ones you'll be using the most. Far slash is super good. It's got a big hitbox. It tends to be the thing you do a lot of the time before puffball pressure, because you do it in the trial. There's that like, I don't think it's empowered. It's something else, but you see far slash into puffball or far slash into any of the slide follow-ups. I guess just in general, far slash into slide follow-ups. Far slash is like one of her longest buttons besides 6H and 2D. So far slash is important to use. as well, if you have 50 meter, and you know Jam tends to build meter very quickly, well, if you have 50 meter, you can do like /RC and then do like a combo. Because of the RC and the time you have to confirm it, you get close slash, which is a real good starter, and then you can just do, you know, whatever the rest of the combo you want to do is. And with that kind of starter, you have so many route options that you can do just about whatever you want. You can do, like, as we were saying before, all kinds of knockdowns. So /RC is pretty good as well. It's good as a neutral tool, and actually, you can do counter hit. Counter hit / confirms off of IED. But the thing is, this is very, very finicky. The most basic, I guess, / counter hit confirm, if you want to try it, is /IED. /IED, JP, JP, JK, JH, and that'll, the reason why it's JP, JP, JK, JH is because that's like the amount of normals that you can land and the time it takes you to land from IED. Sometimes with like, with this combo, I tend to be, you know, if I use just one JP or whatever else, you kind of have to delay it a little bit, or do whatever else, but / on counter hit, if they're standing, you can get this combo. If they're crouching, I think it doesn't work. But in that case, you get, you know, an IED if you decide to do that into like JH, sometimes cross up. Where is she? So // is a pretty good tool. You have some counter hit confirms. That crouching thing will work. /RC will work on crouching and on standing. /IED, JP, JP, cage, or JP cage, if you delay it, will work on standing. So those are the confirms from /, but as well, like I said, good neutral tool, good reach, good hitbox. It tends to be the, where is it? Counter hit, block settings, block at all. It tends to be the thing you do before puffball or before. I tend to do it more before puffball and before. I mean, I don't really do H puffball raw, but I guess you could if you wanted to. But slide follow-ups from / pretty good. / is a good button to get used to. So that's what close /, / 2/ I talked about. I guess moving to H normals. Jam has a 5H and a 2H and a 6H. 5H, well, let's switch to Kai, I guess. I don't know if I'll be able to time it. Actually, I can probably just do this. So go Kai. Actually, no. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it reliably, because I normally don't do the thing where you can switch characters so that you like manually would do the DP yourself and you set your own character to record like Oki. It's real timing intensive though, and for just showing one little thing, I don't know if it's worth it. But this like third hit of Jam 5H will actually low profile some things like Kai's DP. Something else that's like fairly common that I'm forgetting that people use it on, but 5H has that low profile thing. It's a 3-hit normal and it has good things that Gatling out of it. So like /, I do this pretty often in pressure. It's Gatling 5H into /, and then IED pressure or puffball pressure, whatever else. I think you can do 2S out of it. You can check that chart in the Jam Discord for like the full Gatling list, basically. But the most important one, I think, in my mind, is far slash, because that lets you extend pressure and use 5H into stuff. It's important for confirms because of that confirm, basically, that's, you know, 5H, 6K, 6H uses that normal. Good damage, I guess, I think. What does it do? Not encounter it, though. I don't think it matters, but yeah, 66 damage. This does 37. 2H does 46. Yeah, it's good damage, and it's good to use in B&Bs if you can. I think it's probably one of her higher damaging normals. Yeah. 2D does... It might be her most damaging normal, actually, besides... No, even... Yeah, with all the hits together, pretty good damage. But I tend to use it just more in combos. You can do that thing with like low profiling DPs and stuff. If you choose to do that as a way of like... You can really only do that against Kai and the other person who I'm forgetting that you can low profile their DP. But it's worth mentioning, I guess. But 5H has some uses, it has some things that Gatling out of it. It's not like... I don't think the most notable normal she has, though. So, 2H. 2H is very important in terms of both combo utility and on block, because some of the most basic mix-up and some of the first mix-up you'll learn has to deal with like 2H reset pressure, I think, as I tend to call it, because this normal is 0 on block. It's like true neutral on block, on regular block. So I guess in this case, when they're like this close to you, it's not that great because you can kind of mash grab and get out of it, I think. Ah! Yeah, you can be grabbed out of it like that as it's recovering. So that's like the one fear you have with that kind of pressure. But when they're far away like this, and they can't necessarily just mash grab to kill you, the interesting thing about 2H being 0 is that like your 5P is 3 frames, so you can do like whiff stuff or block stuff if they're standing. Most of the time they'll be crouching, but you do like whiff stuff into throw, or you do, you see this happen a lot where they'll do like combos into, or block strings rather, into 2H, and then 5K to like reset right after it ends, because if somebody's regular blocking, 5K is a 4-frame normal. Most of the time you're going to beat out whatever button they're pressing, and in the case that they FD, it's like plus, what is it, +3 or +4? I think it depends on the level of the move. But like, 2H just becomes a more plus, and you can do like more stuff afterwards. It's like 2H reset pressure is a good basic thing. Unfortunately, it has a hard counter like everything else. If they IB the second hit of 2H, it's -4, I think. So you pretty much have to 2D after or you die. So once your opponent knows that, they can kind of limit your pressure options more and force you to do stuff like 2D into slide kick and things like that, or commit to other options like land pressure or J2K as an overhead. But that's if your opponent knows to IB it, so it's still worth using in case they don't, or they don't react to it or something like that. If they just regular block it or FD it, you have plus frames to utilize and press buttons to kind of keep them frame trapped. And then you'll notice like the risk gauge just gets cranked. Like when they don't if somebody's not IBing 2H, or the second hit of 2H rather, because they can IB the first hit and not IB the second, it won't matter. But if they're not IBing the second hit at 2H, you can kind of just do junk a lot, and then the risk gauge gets super cranked, you get a counter hit puffball and you do like a bajillion damage, and that's just kind of level 1. And you have other pressure options, but this is like one of the... It's kind of gimmicky, but if they don't know the gimmick, then you can kill them for it. So it's worth noting. So as a pressure tool and as like a block string tool, 2H has some uses, but it's bad to rely on it too much. Once the opponent does know that, like, yo, you IB the second hit of 2H and they're -4, they have to 2D. I guess I just mean, like, when they understand the pressure and how to deal with it, you have to use other mix-ups. But like at level 1, when they're not sure what to do about 2H, it's worth using. Other than that, outside of block strings, obviously this is the thing we use to juggle into 4-6 PK most of the time, because there's enough hit stun behind 2H and 2H1 that it makes juggling into PK possible. And that's what you'll use it for in terms of combo utility most of the time. I don't think that works, but this will work. Oops. Obviously. So 2H has that use as well. What else? In combo fodder besides before 4-6 PK, obviously, because it's just in general before 4-6 P, it's also like you'll do it kind of at the end of combos to confirm. A common thing is like micro dash run up, some normal, whether it's 5K or 2S or close S, whatever you prefer, into 2H, into 4-6 PP. That's a common knockdown and something you utilize fairly often. So 2H has that combo utility as well. What else? Kind of how we talked about before. If your opponent is jumping, I guess if they're doing like a random jump or they're doing a jump back or something, this is more applicable. But it has like the first and second hits actually have like that kind of wide hitbox that's actually just bigger than you would expect it to be. It's like it'll hit all the way out here. Kind of how we talked about before in terms of using enders and doing like air confirms and things like that. Like, it's actually a bigger hitbox than you would expect it to be. Get over here. So you can sometimes get stray hits catching people jumping out or doing something with 2H, and it can turn into 164 damage off of nothing. So it is a long-reaching normal, not in the conventional sense like 6H or like bar slash, but you can use it for that as well. That just about covers it for 2H. For 6H, it's a hop kick, and you'll notice she does that little hop at the beginning. So in effect, it's actually quite a bit longer than you'd think, because starting full screen, jam ends up right about here when it's done. You know, so it covers quite a bit of distance, but that will sometimes mess with people because, you know, her extending her foot, if you imagine the hitbox, how big it is, you would think from here it wouldn't hit, but it does. Like, it hits from quite a bit further than you would think. It's just that it needs that little bit of hop startup to hit. Ideally, when you're throwing 6H, you want to hit with that like foot, because the closer you are when you do 6H, if you're like point blank, basically. The only place that 6H has a hurt box in terms of her feet, I think, is that foot, that back foot, basically, and it's a real tiny little hurt box. So it high profiles things, like it low crushes things. This is your big low crush. but the thing is, if you're like right next to them when you use it, it's not as good of a low crush because you're extending your hurt box more. So if you can use it from the tip of 6H, that's great. That's more likely, it makes it more likely that you'll be able to utilize the low crush of 6H without worrying about, oh, am I going to get tripped up or whatever. So that's an important thing to work on in terms of spacing and using it in neutral, which I'll talk about later. But that it does have that property, it's a low crush. So in terms of using it in block strings and things like that, there's like Gatling's into 6H, where you can leave a gap, like I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 2K 6H, there's like a gap. And I think maybe 5K 6H as well. But there's lots of things that Gatling into 6H, namely all the kicks. Like 6K 6H works, in fact you use it in that combo. 5K 6H, I'm not sure if it Gatlings, but if not, there's enough recovery on 5K that you can kind of like throw a 6H after, and I don't know how big the gap is. I think it looks like it might actually just Gatling. Do 2K 6H. In fact, this is actually a common block string that I use after successfully meeting 5K on their wake up. Is like something like 5K 2K 5K 6H or 5K 2K 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 6H or something. Like, you can get pretty creative. You know, 5K. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. As long as you know what Gatling's into 6H, you can just. I could probably mash my face on my controller and something would work into 6H, but it is good in block strings as well, because, and this is the big thing we talk about, this is what happens when you get counter hit. Oh, don't block. Oops. Get these like giant combos into PK. How's this one go? Nah, it's too. Something like that. Oh, I don't think you can get Puff Puff after that, but that's still like pretty good amount of damage. You know, 200 damage off of counter hit 6H, even if you don't do like the complicated PK extensions, and because you ended it with 4-6 PP, you get a safe jump. Like, 6H is a super good button on counter hit. You can do all kinds of things with PK confirms and other junk on counter hit. Different confirms will work on different things. I think PK confirms off of 6H and Puffball and stuff they tend to be more consistent on heavier weights like Johnny. I don't know if I should show that, but I guess just for the sake of talking about the combo, doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, 6H is a good normal, especially on counter hit. You get all kinds of crazy confirms. That's a very basic one, but 6H is real good. 6H counter hit damage is some of the like biggest damage. Excuse me, misspoke. Some of the biggest damage she has. So 6H all around very good button. I guess other than as a counter hit starter, it has its uses in combo utility. One thing that I tend to use 6H for is because you can do 6H Ryujin or 6H DP or all this other stuff. I tend to do that. Oh, you can do slide kick as well. This works more on the midweights because they're like heavy enough for this to work mid-screen and not be too hard. But in the corner, it works on like everybody. 6H into slide kick for confirms. But otherwise, 6H into kicks is good. For instance, if you're doing this like optimized confirm and you already have cards, normally that like 6H at the end, you just charge a card after. But in this case, you can do like something nutty. confirms into 6H, max regen. Just a real basic extension. If you have the resources, if you have the cards, and meter, and all this other stuff, you can use 6A as a combo tool at that point instead of just like taking the Ender and getting card. Another place where I tend to use 6H as just like combo fodder is after Puff Puff stuff. So Puff Puff, something like that. 6H in the corner, I guess, after Puffballs. You can use it to juggle into kicks and things like that. I guess there's other uses as well, but those are like the main things that I tend to use it for. So 5H, 2H, 6H. She doesn't have a 4H. 5D. I don't know how much there is to say about 5D. Like, I don't think it's... I guess it's one of the faster ones, but like, since, you know, in Exard, like, Sign On, they gave it a very noticeable, like, red flash beforehand. Like, it's not really all that viable as, like, a mix-up tool or anything. Like, I would really recommend staying away from 5D and block strings. It's really inconsistent. It depends on whether you're net playing or you know, playing locally. Most people will react to it and see like, oh, it's a 5D, I'm gonna block high. Like it's not something you even have to have seen before to really block it. They'll have that like big flash now. I guess the one thing I will say, I think this works. Maybe not. Yeah, no, it does. J2KRC sometimes... If you do like the real low version and then RC it, I guess you can get a counter hit, or not a counter hit, but like a combo 5H, or a 5D rather, if you really want it. There's two basic 5D confirms in the trials, and I don't think I ever use anything differently. Like, I never... This confirm, I don't think I've done in an actual match like once since I started playing her, but I mean, I guess if you really want to, you could. Yeah, I don't really do that combo, it's kind of hard to time. It's kind of similar to that Leo thing you see people do, where you do like the landing into whatever RC 5D, whatever it is. I guess if you really wanted to, you could. It's not particularly big damage. It's like 116 off of a Dusk combo, which is kind of not really impressive considering you have all this other junk that's just like crazy damage. So I don't recommend really using 5D for anything. But I mean, if anything, YRC it and make them block high and then do 5k or something. I guess that seems like something Amadeus would do. 2D. This one is actually worth mentioning because it's super long. It's like the tip of her foot now. Like almost exactly to where the animation will actually go to. Like, yeah, like this is like the farthest range where I think it whiffs. Or like the closest where it whiffs. It's like you see her foot like going over his, but you know, move forward just a little bit. It hits. It's like almost to the animation. It used to be like till right about here it would still whiff. So it did get a range buff in Rev 2, which helped out quite a bit. It's very strong as a neutral tool. It's a trip, so some characters have, you know, longer things that'll also combo into stuff without RC, I guess. Ours you kind of have to, but you can get stuff off of it, I guess. 2D RC, whatever, if you really want to. The thing is, though, you don't always need something like that. Sometimes I think an important thing is to realize that, like, if you're playing neutral and you hit them with 2D, especially if you're like already buffering a charge and like just confirming it after you see that they go down. Like you can actually do card charge fairly far into like confirming. So if you're buffering a card charge while you're doing 2D, you can see that that they got hit by it and do a card charge and then walk up and do a meaty, which is actually pretty good for just pressing a button in neutral. So sometimes it's alright to just take the 2D and get the knockdown, maybe get a card, but even if you don't get a card, get like walk up Oki. It's not even really all that awful if you're just buffering 2D into card charge, because I mean at the very worst you spend 25 meter. I guess that's bad if you don't have 25 meter, but like at the very worst you spend 25 meter to YRC and it's like, oh no. I guess it has to be while you're charging, but you can kind of react to your opponent and whether or not they're actually going to see it. There's been times where I'll do like 2D card charge and they expect more, you know, more block string or more combo or something, so they don't even react. Jump cancel your 2D to charge to get more time. Yeah, that's true. You can, actually that is something you see people do and something that I do as well. It's kind of like a fidget as well. Because it's jump cancelable. Thanks for pointing that out, Human Like. So like, you can jump cancel it, you can card charge YRC, or you can do all kinds of other stuff. 2D's a solid button, and with the range buff in Rev 2, it's definitely worth trying to like learn to use as a neutral tool, because it will beat out some things. Like I think you can probably, I wonder if you can outrange. Yeah, sick. You can beat that super long. Oops. You can beat that super long 2S with it if you're in the right place to do that. Though honestly, I would probably rather do that with the 2S just to get the stagger. But like I said, 2D's a knockdown. It's better than nothing. And even if you do something like hitting your opponent while they're running at you in neutral, and just get ready and get Oki, that's at least your way in, you know? And you can always do stuff like 2D 236 SK. No, what? I tend to actually do this more when I have like a Ryujin charge or a Gekirin charge or something. And then you get like a full combo. You can do, I think you can do PK off of that actually. Maybe not. Puff puff? Sick. Unfortunately I use 6k there instead of 5k. Same thing I was talking about before, where I do like 6k instead of 5k and it uncombos. But yeah, 2D's a good button. It's super long, and especially in combination with 2D 236 SK, you can actually do some pretty long reaching confirms. In terms of combo fodder, other than 2D 236 SK, I can't think of like huge uses for it, but you know, the stuff I've mentioned so far is good enough reason to use 2D. I don't know how much I want to talk about the special moves because they are very like self-explanatory, or there's stuff already written about them. Maybe just go over them quickly, but like, got kicks. You can like YRC these kicks and do like mix-ups and stuff like that. The kicks have different properties. That's kind of covered in the Jam FAQ. Any information about like, I think there's some amount of invul on Max Ryujin in some place, but that's the kind of thing you can look into frame data for, and you'll figure out a good amount about it. So I'm not going to go too deep into that. All the properties of her special moves and things like that are pretty much covered. What's the next thing? Oh, so round start, because somebody had actually... Getting back to neutral to 5k after the micro dash is tricky. Yeah, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but a trick for that actually is, instead of doing... Maybe I should show my joystick. Maybe in the center? Yeah, so something like this. I don't know if I'll keep that for later, but so the thing about it is, like, when you're doing microdash 5k for combos or whatever other reason you need to do microdash 5k, if you're doing it for pressure, like you said, you can do microdash and then try to go back to neutral and do 5k, but that's kind of inconsistent, even for for however long I've been playing Jam and for whatever else. I still have trouble with that to some degree. So the thing I've been making myself do recently is do 4k, because Jam doesn't have an actual 4k, and to get 6k you need to input 6k. If you do 4k, you get 5k, but you also can't be doing, like, because you're 6 and 4, you're not going to get 6k when you're doing a microdash into 5k. So that helps quite a bit, actually. And I kind of mentioned this earlier with the 2S with 5k stuff that I was doing earlier, but I tend to actually hold back during a lot of that confirm because of the thing about burst baiting and how, like, 2S will recover in time and you'll actually be blocking their burst. Like, it's not a godlike reaction or anything like that. It's literally just me holding back while I'm doing this whole confirm. Like, oh yeah, that came a bit earlier, so you can always look at it in the VOD. But after a certain point, especially when I think they're gonna burst, if I'm, like, doing safe jump and they get hit by that, I'll do JH, and then if they burst, it's, let me show you, auto psych burst 1. So we do this 4-6 PP ender pretty commonly, and is there a way to show this without? Well, suffice to say, after 4-6 PP ender, you can do, like, a burst, or do a safe jump rather. So the safe jump looks a little bit like this. We do, like, and this is meant to catch DPs and stuff like that, but it'll also catch bursts. So what you can do is you're, like, holding back, and then even as you go to, like, do the confirm, if you do like this into 5k, if you time it correctly, that is, you'll get, like, 5k burst blocked. Oops. Messing up a little bit. That's ideally how it's supposed to work. That's why you can kind of get away with doing stuff like my default safe jump confirm tends to be something like this when they have bursts. Let's do, like, low JH and then into whatever else, because essentially from here you're just pressing 5k. Of course, not a problem. Thanks for tuning in. So when you do, like, the safe jump 5H, if they burst there, you'll, like, block it, and then you can do, if they don't burst, you get some confirm, like 5k 2k 2d or 2k 2k 2d or whatever else. You can even extend this, like, 2ks to try and bait the burst if they start trying to burst after, like, the first 2 hits or something. So yeah, it's pretty good. What was I talking about before all this safe jump business? 2D? No, I went over 2D. Yeah, I completely forgot what I was saying. I'm gonna go to the next thing on the list then, which is round start. So, question that somebody asked before is, or not even just one person, but like in general, it gets asked kind of often, is what do I do at round start versus character X or character Y? What do I do at round start in general? All this other stuff. You have quite a few options at round start. Some of them kind of really don't make a lot of sense. Some of them are more useful, but to go over some of the most basic ones, round start / slash. That's like the first button I usually think to press, and if they get hit, counter hit standing for whatever reason, by / slash, you have that confirm from earlier, which was like the, you know, ID confirm off of that. So that's an option. It'll lose to things like longer reaching normals like 5H, but in any case, I think it's good to throw out / slash just to kind of see where you stand. That's usually my like default first round start, just to kind of, you know, if you're gonna fall back on one, I guess make it / slash. Different things will happen. I tend to just default to it a lot of the time. You'll either trade with something, or you'll get counter hit out of something, or you'll get, you know, a counter hit on them while they're crouching, and even if you don't get a confirm, you'll at least get some more pressure. There's all kinds of things that can happen from / slash. That's the first one I tend to use. Other ones include 2S. This is more if you're like trying to hard call something out, like maybe a 2D, or for whatever reason, kind of how we're talking about. This will be more prominent when we talk about neutral, but like 2S, I guess you could use round start. Any of these buttons, you could potentially use round start for whatever reason. I guess it's the important thing to know about round start though is that it's more about reacting to what your opponent's been doing. Because obviously, you know, if you go 3 rounds in a game and your opponent does one thing around start, the first time you might get counter hit by it or surprised by it, but you can kind of play rock paper scissors. It's almost literally like round start rock paper scissors to see like what option are they going to do. Do I have an answer to that? If not, do something else or do something safer, or, you know, that's the kind of line of thinking that we think about when we say like, what do I do at round start? So I would actually call / slash rock, because it's like gets thrown so often, and the fact itself that it gets thrown often can kind of like trick people to say like, oh, he's not going to round start / slash. Well, you would. 2 / 5K, you can, if you're an actual madman, you can round start 6H and try and call something out if you want to like low crush something, I guess. That's a thing. I don't know about round start 2D. I don't know that I use it like very often, but if you like wiggle forward a little bit and they're throwing like a 5H or something that you can kind of like duck under, 2D might not be so bad. 2S, 5K, if you're trying to like poke the hurt box of a long-reaching normal or something like that. Actually, I kind of recommend round start 6B sometimes as well. It'll beat some things out. Actually, in a set very recently with Malik, who's a Faust player, Vile Merrick. So I think he's from Georgia. We ran a long set, and I think he did round start / slash a whole